Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1, GV, Whiskey 1 Good Vibrations. In my last video about my favorite antenna surprise, in which I put a 5/8 wave balloon supported wire antenna up on 80 meters and discovered what happens in the wintertime in Minnesota when you do that. During that same winter of 1970, I still get my decades mixed up, 1988, 1977 to 1988, when I stayed at my parents' house, only because of their good graces and love for me as I recovered from a serious injury and illness. I operated a lot of 160 meter CW with a 5/8 wave balloon supported wire for that band. It would be twice the length, of course, roughly, as the 80 meter 5/8 wavelength balloon supported antenna. When the wind was calm, it was a vertical, and a 5/8 wave vertical antenna on 160 meters really gets out at night in Minnesota. And I did a lot of that. Sometimes it was vertical, sometimes it was sloping because of the wind, but it was always 5/8 wave long. You can calculate according to the formula for a half wavelength and then multiply the length by 1.25. I don't know offhand what the length would be, 350 feet thereabouts. But anyway, it was tall, and as I said, may or may not have complied with FAA regulations, Federal Aviation Administration, but nobody ever gave me any hassle about it. I would not recommend you do anything like that without first checking with the Federal Aviation Administration, because if there's an airport anywhere near your area, you're going to be restricted, especially if you fly an antenna or a balloon that high. It even applies to kites, by the way, and a lot of people fly kites way up high, and it doesn't have to be a metal line either. It can be just plain old kite line, kite string. Theoretically, you're supposed to make sure that that's all right, doesn't interfere with aviation. You don't want to be responsible for a plane crash, and that could in fact occur if all luck didn't go your way. But luck went my way that winter of 1987 to 1988 on 160 meters, and I was more or less king of the band on CW with my Drake R4A and T4X and Johnson Viking trans match called a Matchbox. Well, now that did not work on 160 meters, I forget. So I think I may have either flown a 3/4 wavelength wire or perhaps had a different transmatch, purchased a different transmatch that would cover 160 meters. I stand corrected. But in any case, I got on 160 with an antenna like that during that winter. And I remember one station in particular that seemed to be kind of a landmark that winter on 160 meters. I didn't work any sideband or AM, but I listened to him an awful lot because he was a really entertaining fellow. He used AM on something like 1860, 1.86 or something like that. I don't remember the band structure exactly, but you could always know that he was there because as you tuned the CW receiver R4A in CW mode, you could hear that steady carrier switch to AM for reception and listen to this guy talk. And he used to talk rather slowly, and he had a characteristic voice, and he was just he was almost like you could calibrate your radio by his signal. You could calibrate your mood by his mood. he was just so much fun to listen to. I spent quite a lot of time just lying on my bed by the Drake R4A with the speaker on instead of the headphones and just listening to this guy. The 160-meter AM king, as it were, emperor of AM on 160 meters that winter. It brings back memories, fond memories, of my parents and their love towards me to care for me and take me in when they didn't have to. I was 34 years old after all. But they did, and they let me do this, and they had the real estate out back, although it wasn't their property, and they knew the people who owned it, and they never objected to it. Maybe they didn't like it very much, but it didn't cause any hazard to their property. No danger should the little woodpecker fly along and little balloon pecker peck that thing down. But it was really a memorable winter. The horrendous pain that I went through. The narcotics that they prescribed did not work, so I did not take them, not wishing to become an opioid addict. Why take the stuff if it doesn't work anyway? And so I was always in constant, unrelenting pain, but my mind was in part taken off of it by the Emperor of AM on, I believe it was, 1860 kilohertz. Stan Gibilisco, W1GV, now signing off, saying 73 and so long, which, then as now, in my native fist, translated into da-da-da-da-da-da.